The eviction notice was taped to Isaiah Carter's door when he got home from his shift at 6:47 in the morning. Red letters. Bold font. Final notice, 72 hours to vacate. Isaiah stared at it for a long moment before pulling it down and folding it into his pocket. His hands smelled like cardboard and diesel fuel from loading trucks all night. His shoulders ached. His lower back throbbed with the kind of pain that never really went away anymore, just dulled to a manageable burn. He unlocked the door as quietly as he could and stepped into the apartment. It was small. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that doubled as a dining room because there wasn't space for both. The walls were thin enough that he could hear Mrs. Price coughing next door. She'd been coughing a lot lately. Deep, wet sounds that made his chest tighten with worry he couldn't afford to feel. Maya was asleep on the couch. 8 years old with her hair in 2 puffs that Isaiah had managed to braid the night before. They weren't perfect, but they held. She was still wearing her school clothes from yesterday because he'd fallen asleep before he could remind her to change. Caleb was in the bedroom, sprawled across the twin mattress they shared, one arm hanging off the side, his mouth open. 6 years old and small for his age. He looked like his mother. Same delicate features, same soft expression even in sleep. Isaiah looked at them and felt his throat go tight. 72 hours. 3 days to pack up everything they owned and find somewhere else to go. Somewhere cheaper. Somewhere that didn't exist. He walked to the kitchen and opened the fridge. Half a gallon of milk. Some eggs. Bread. A package of hot dogs that was probably still good. He closed the fridge and leaned against the counter. The eviction notice felt heavy in his pocket even though it weighed nothing. The rent was $950 a month. He made $2,100 after taxes. After rent, there was $1,150 left for everything else. Groceries. Utilities. Bus fare. School supplies. Maya needed new shoes. Caleb needed a winter coat. The electric bill was overdue. The water bill was overdue. Everything was overdue because he kept having to choose which bill to pay and which one to let slide another month. Last month he'd chosen wrong. He'd paid the electric bill instead of rent because winter was coming and he couldn't let his kids freeze. The landlord's property management company didn't care about his reasons. They cared about money. And now he had 72 hours. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. Isaiah pushed off the counter and went to check on Caleb. The boy was still asleep, his small chest rising and falling steadily. Isaiah pulled the blanket up over him and tucked it around his shoulders. Then he went back to the living room and gently shook Maya awake. "Baby girl," he said softly. "Time to get up for school." Maya's eyes opened slowly. She looked at him with those sharp, knowing eyes that saw too much for an 8-year-old. "You just got home," she said. "I know. But you still gotta go to school." She sat up and rubbed her face. Her braids had gotten a little messy overnight, but they'd hold until tonight when he could redo them. "Are we gonna be okay, Daddy?" Isaiah felt something crack in his chest. He sat down next to her and pulled her into his lap even though she was getting too big for it. "Yeah, baby. We're gonna be okay. You promise?" He kissed the top of her head. Her hair smelled like the coconut oil he'd used yesterday. "I promise." It was a lie. He knew it was a lie. But what else could he say? Maya pulled back and looked at him. "Mrs. Price was coughing really loud last night. Is she sick?" "I don't know, baby. Maybe. You should check on her." Isaiah nodded. "I will. Now go get ready for school." Maya slid off his lap and padded toward the bathroom. Isaiah heard the water turn on. He stood up and went to wake Caleb. The boy stirred and made a sleepy sound of protest. "Come on, buddy. Time to get up." Caleb opened his eyes and smiled. It was automatic, that smile. Like the world hadn't taught him yet that mornings were something to dread. "Hi, Daddy." "Hi, baby boy. You hungry?" Caleb nodded. Isaiah lifted him out of bed and carried him to the kitchen. He was light. Too light. Isaiah made a mental note to add that to the list of things to worry about later. He made eggs and toast. Not much, but enough. The kids ate quietly while Isaiah stood at the counter drinking instant coffee that tasted like burnt rubber. He watched them and tried to memorize this moment. The way the morning light came through the window. The sound of Caleb humming while he ate. The way Maya kept glancing at him like she was checking to make sure he was still there. After breakfast, he walked them down to the bus stop. The apartment building was old, 5 stories with narrow hallways and flickering lights. The elevator had been broken for 3 weeks. Isaiah held Caleb's hand while Maya walked ahead. She was independent like that. Always had been. As they passed Mrs. Price's door, Isaiah heard the coughing again. It sounded worse than it had last night. He stopped and pressed his ear to the door. Silence. Then another cough. Then a thump, like something falling. "Wait here," he told the kids. He knocked on the door. "Mrs. Price? You okay in there?" No answer. Just more coughing. Isaiah knocked harder. "Mrs. Price, it's Isaiah from next door. I'm coming in, okay?" He tried the handle. But he pulled out his phone and called the building super, but it went straight to voicemail. Of course it did. The super never answered. "Daddy." Maya's voice was small. "It's okay, baby. Stay with your brother." Isaiah stepped back and kicked the door near the handle. Twice. On the third kick, the frame splintered and the door swung open. The apartment smelled like sickness. Sweet and sour at the same time. Mrs. Price was on the floor next to the couch, her body twisted at an odd angle. She was wearing a nightgown that had ridden up around her thighs. Her skin looked gray. Her eyes were half open but unfocused. "Mrs. Price." Isaiah dropped to his knees beside her. His EMT training kicked in automatically. Check breathing. Check pulse. She was breathing, but it was shallow and rapid. Her pulse was thready and weak. Her skin was clammy. Cold. He looked back at the doorway. Maya and Caleb were staring in, their eyes wide. "Maya, take Caleb downstairs and wait for the bus. Don't miss it. Go straight to school. I'll call you later, okay?" "But Daddy." "Now, Maya." She grabbed Caleb's hand and pulled him toward the stairs. Isaiah heard their footsteps fade away. Then he turned back to Mrs. Price. "Mrs. Price, can you hear me?" "Eleanor." Her lips moved. A whisper came out. "Isaiah." "Yeah, it's me. What happened? Did you fall?" "Dizzy. Couldn't get up." Isaiah looked around the apartment. It was neat. Photos on the walls. Books on the shelves. A life that had been lived carefully. He spotted a medical alert bracelet on her wrist. He turned it over. Diabetic. Type 2. Insulin dependent. His stomach dropped. "When's the last time you took your insulin?" She closed her eyes. 3 days. Maybe 4. I don't remember. "Where is it? Where's your insulin?" "Gone. Used it all. Couldn't afford more." Isaiah felt rage and helplessness war inside him. He knew that feeling. The feeling of needing something your body required to stay alive and not being able to afford it. He'd watched his wife go through it. Watched her ration her medication. Watched her get sicker and sicker because she kept choosing to feed the kids instead of buying what she needed. He'd lost her anyway. And now he was watching it happen again. "I'm calling an ambulance," he said. Her hand shot out and grabbed his wrist. Her grip was weak but desperate. "No. Can't afford it. They'll take me away. Put me in a home. You need medical attention. No hospitals. Please." Her eyes were wet. "Please, Isaiah. Just help me to the couch. I'll be okay. Just need to rest." Isaiah looked at her. She was maybe 65, 70. Black woman with silver hair cut short. Thin frame that had probably been stronger once. She'd lived next door for the 2 years since he'd moved in. She was quiet. Kept to herself. Sometimes she'd smile at the kids in the hallway. Once she'd given Caleb a butterscotch candy from her purse. He didn't know her. Not really. But he couldn't leave her like this. "Okay," he said. "No hospital. But you need insulin. Where do you get it?" "Pharmacy. Down on 7th Street. But I don't have money." "How much?" $300. Maybe more. I don't know. The price keeps going up." $300. Isaiah had $340 in his checking account. That was supposed to be for the electric bill. Or maybe groceries. Or maybe nothing because the eviction meant none of it mattered anyway. I'll get it, he said. Isaiah, no. You can't. I'll get it. He stood up and helped her onto the couch. She was so light. Like her bones were hollow. He grabbed a blanket from the back of the couch and spread it over her. You stay here. Don't try to get up. I'll be back in an hour. You don't have to do this. Yeah, I do. He left before she could argue. Outside, the morning air was cold and sharp. He pulled out his phone and checked his account. $340.23. He thought about the eviction notice in his pocket. He thought about Maya and Caleb and the 72 hours they had left. He thought about his wife and how she died because she couldn't afford the medication she needed. Then he walked to the pharmacy on 7th Street. The fluorescent lights inside were too bright. Everything was too bright and too clean and too expensive. Isaiah found the pharmacy counter in the back. A young woman with a ponytail stood behind it, typing on a computer. I need to pick up insulin for Eleanor Price, Isaiah said. The woman typed something. Do you have her insurance card? No. Let me look her up. Price. Eleanor Price. Here she is. She frowned at the screen. Her insurance lapsed last month. Without insurance, the total is $387.50. Isaiah felt his chest tighten. $387? For insulin? Yes, sir. That's for a month's supply. How much for just enough to last a week? The woman looked uncomfortable. We don't really sell it that way. The manufacturer packages it in monthly supplies. So she either pays $387 or she doesn't get it at all? I'm sorry, sir. I don't make the rules. Isaiah wanted to scream. He wanted to flip the counter over and tear this whole place apart. But he didn't. He just stood there feeling helpless and angry and so tired. What if I pay what I have? He asked. I've got $340. Can you give me what that covers? The woman bit her lip. She looked over her shoulder at the pharmacist, an older white man who was counting pills at the back counter. Then she looked back at Isaiah. Hold on, she said. She walked over to the pharmacist and spoke quietly. Isaiah couldn't hear what she said, but he saw the pharmacist look over at him. The man's expression was unreadable. Then he nodded. The woman came back. My boss says we can give you a partial supply. It won't last the full month, but it's better than nothing. That'll be $340. Isaiah pulled out his debit card and handed it over. She ran it. The transaction went through. She bagged the insulin and handed it to him along with a receipt. Make sure she keeps it refrigerated, the woman said. And tell her to come back when she needs more. Well, you will figure something out. Isaiah nodded. He couldn't speak. His throat was too tight. He walked back to the apartment building with the insulin in his hand and 23 cents left in his account. The eviction notice felt heavier now. The electric bill was still unpaid. There was no money for groceries. No money for anything. But Mrs. Price wouldn't die today. That had to count for something. When he got back to her apartment, she was still on the couch, her eyes closed. He thought for a horrible moment that she died while he was gone. But then her chest moved, and he felt relief flood through him. Mrs. Price. He touched her shoulder gently. I got your medicine. Her eyes opened. When she saw the bag in his hand, tears started rolling down her face. You didn't have to do that. I know. He opened the bag and pulled out the insulin and syringes. His EMT training came back. He'd done this before. When's the last time you ate? Yesterday. Maybe. I'm gonna give you the insulin, but then you need to eat something. You got food here? She shook her head. Not much. Isaiah sighed. I'll bring something from my place. He prepared the injection, found a vein in her arm, administered it carefully. She winced but didn't pull away. When he was done, he went back to his apartment and grabbed what he could. Eggs. Bread. The last of the milk. He brought it back and made her scrambled eggs in her tiny kitchen. She ate slowly, like it hurt. Why did you do this? She asked between bites. Isaiah didn't know how to answer that. Because it was right? Because he couldn't stand by and watch someone die? Because his wife had died the same way and he'd never forgiven himself for not doing more? You needed help, he said finally. Mrs. Price looked at him for a long time. Then she said, "You're a good man, Isaiah Carter." He wasn't sure that was true. Good men didn't let their kids get evicted. Good men didn't run out of money. Good men had their lives together. But he just nodded and said, "Get some rest. I'll check on you later." He went back to his own apartment and looked at the eviction notice on the counter. 72 hours. Now with 23 cents in his account. He sat down at the kitchen table and put his head in his hands. Isaiah didn't sleep. He couldn't. He sat at the kitchen table staring at the eviction notice until the numbers and letters blurred together. 72 hours. 3 days. Then what? A shelter? His kids sleeping on cots next to strangers? Maya and Caleb being taken by child services because he couldn't provide stable housing? His phone buzzed. The text from Maya. She'd borrowed a friend's phone. "Are you okay, Daddy?" He texted back. "I'm a fine baby girl. How was school?" "Is Mrs. Price okay?" "She's resting. I'll see you when you get home." "Love you. Love you too." Isaiah set the phone down and rubbed his face. He needed to sleep. His next shift started at 10 p.m. 6 hours. He could get maybe 4 hours of sleep if he went to bed now. But his mind wouldn't shut off. He thought about calling his brother in Atlanta, but Jerome had his own family to worry about. 3 kids and a mortgage. He'd helped Isaiah out before, after Sarah died, when the medical bills had buried them. Jerome had sent what he could, but it was never enough and Isaiah couldn't keep asking. He thought about calling the church, but he'd already been there twice this year. Food pantry both times. Sister Monica had been kind about it, but he'd seen the pity in her eyes. He couldn't go back. Couldn't stand the look. There was no one to call. No safety net. No backup plan. He finally fell asleep around noon, slumped forward on the kitchen table with his head on his arms. He woke to someone knocking on his door. For a confused moment, he thought it was the kids, but then he remembered they had keys. He stood up, his neck stiff and aching, and opened the door. Mrs. Price stood in the hallway. She looked better. Still weak, still unsteady, but there was color in her face now. She was leaning on a cane. "Isaiah," she said, "I need to talk to you. You should be resting." "I rested. Now I need to talk. May I come in?" He stepped aside and she walked in slowly, each step careful and measured. He helped her to the couch. She sat down with a small sigh of relief. "Thank you," she said. "For this morning. For the medicine. For everything." "You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do. You spent money you didn't have. I know that building gave you an eviction notice. I saw it on your door this morning before you took it down." Isaiah's jaw tightened. "That's not your concern. It is now. You sacrificed your rent money to save my life. That makes it my concern." She looked at him with those sharp, intelligent eyes. "How much time do you have?" 72 hours. She nodded slowly. "And where will you go?" "I don't know yet. I'll figure something out." "You have children. A daughter and a son. I've seen them in the hallway. Beautiful children. Smart. Well-behaved. Maya and Caleb. 8 and 6. Their mother." Isaiah's throat tightened. "Gone. 3 years ago. Cancer. She couldn't afford treatment." The words came out harder than he meant them to. The insurance company kept denying claims. Said her chemo was experimental. By the time we got approved, it was too late. Mrs. Price's expression softened. "I'm sorry." "Yeah. Me too." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Mrs. Price said, "I have a proposition for you. I don't want charity." "It's not charity. It's an exchange." She leaned forward slightly. "I need help. I can't take care of myself. I can't climb stairs. I can barely walk. I need someone to check on me, help me with medications, make sure I eat. In exchange, I'll help with your rent. Just until you get back on your feet." Isaiah shook his head. "I can't take your money. You just told me you couldn't afford insulin." "I lied." Her voice was calm, matter-of-fact. "I have money. More than enough. I wanted to see if anyone would help. If anyone would care about an old woman who had nothing to offer them." Isaiah stared at her. "You lied." I wanted to know if kindness still existed in this world. If someone would help me just because I needed it, not because they could get something from me. She met his eyes. You passed the test, Isaiah. You're exactly who I thought you were. He felt anger rising in his chest. You played me? You let me spend my last dollar on a test. I let you show me who you are. And now I want to help you. Please, let me. I don't need your games. Those children need stability. They need a home. They need their father not to be working himself to death. Her voice was firm now, the voice of someone used to being obeyed. Let me help you the way you helped me. Isaiah stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the afternoon sun was starting to set. In a few hours, he'd have to go to work. He'd have to load trucks and lift boxes and pretend his back didn't hurt and his future wasn't crumbling. What exactly are you proposing? He asked without turning around. I'll pay your rent. All of it. Past, due, and current. In exchange, you check on me twice a day. Morning and evening. Help me with my medications. Maybe cook a meal occasionally. Grocery shop when I need it. Basic caretaking. That's not a fair trade. Rent costs more than what that's worth. Let me be the judge of what's fair. Her voice softened. I don't have anyone, Isaiah. My children, they don't speak to me anymore. Haven't for 5 years. They're waiting for me to die so they can inherit what I have. I'm alone. Completely alone. Having someone check on me, having someone who cares if I live or die, that's worth more than you know. Isaiah turned around. What happened? With your children? Mrs. Price's face tightened. I was a federal judge for 30 years. I sentenced a lot of people. Made a lot of hard decisions. My children thought I was too harsh. Too unforgiving. When their father died, they blamed me. Said I worked too much, that I cared more about my career than family. They wanted his inheritance immediately. I said no. I said they needed to prove they could be responsible with it. They accused me of being controlling. We had a terrible fight and they left. I haven't seen them since. I'm sorry. Don't be. They showed me who they really were. Just like you showed me who you are. She adjusted the cane in her lap. I'm 71 years old, Isaiah. I don't have much time left. I don't want to spend it alone. Please let me do this. For both of us. Isaiah looked at her. Really looked at her. The silver hair, the tired eyes, the proud set of her shoulders despite the weakness in her body. She was telling the truth. He could see it. Okay, he said finally. But I'm going to earn it. I'm not taking handouts. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. A small smile crossed Mrs. Price's face. I wouldn't expect anything less. The next morning, Isaiah knocked on Mrs. Price's door at 7 a.m. after he'd gotten the kids off to school. She answered wearing a robe, her hair wrapped in a silk scarf. Good morning, she said. Come in. He stepped inside and noticed the apartment looked different in daylight. More details visible. The photos on the walls were of a younger Eleanor in a judge's robe. Standing with important-looking people. Receiving awards. Living a life that seemed very far from this small apartment in a rundown building. You want me to make breakfast? He asked. If you don't mind. There are eggs in the refrigerator. Bread in the pantry. He cooked while she sat at the small kitchen table and watched. It felt strange having someone watch him. Sarah used to do that. She'd sit and drink coffee and talk to him while he cooked. He'd forgotten what that felt like. Your children, Eleanor said. Tell me about them. Maya's 8. Smart as a whip. Too smart sometimes. She worries about things kids shouldn't have to worry about. He cracked eggs into a pan. Caleb's 6. Sweet kid. Gentle. He draws a lot. Wants to be an artist when he grows up. You do their hair? Yeah. Took me a while to figure it out. Sarah used to do it. After she died, I watched a lot of YouTube videos. He smiled slightly. Maya's patient with me. Caleb doesn't care as long as it's not too tight. You're a good father. I'm trying to be. He brought the eggs to the table and sat down across from her. She ate slowly, carefully. He noticed her hands shook slightly when she lifted the fork. "The insulin," he said. "Is it helping?" "Yes. Thank you. My blood sugar's been more stable. I can think more clearly now." "You need to check it regularly. Do you have a glucose monitor?" She nodded. "I do. I stopped checking. Stopped caring." She set down her fork. When you're alone and nobody cares if you live or die, it's easy to stop fighting. Isaiah understood that. He'd felt it himself after Sarah died. The urge to just stop. To let go. The only thing that kept him fighting was the kids. They needed him. That made all the difference. "You're not alone anymore," he said. Something flickered in Eleanor's eyes. "No. I suppose I'm not." That afternoon, after Isaiah had slept a few hours before his shift, there was another knock on his door. He opened it expecting Eleanor, but instead found a man in a cheap suit holding a clipboard. "Isaiah Carter?" "Yeah. I'm David Morrison from Child Protective Services. We need to talk about your housing situation." Isaiah's blood went cold. "What?" "We received a report that you're facing eviction and may not have stable housing for your minor children. I need to come in and assess the situation." "Who reported me?" "I can't disclose that." "May I come in?" Isaiah wanted to slam the door. Wanted to tell this man to go to hell. But he knew that would make everything worse. So he stepped aside and let him in. Morrison walked through the apartment slowly, making notes. He opened the refrigerator. Looked in the bedrooms. Checked the bathroom. He saw the stack of bills on the counter. The eviction notice that Isaiah had left out. "Mr. Carter, I'm going to be direct with you. Your current housing situation is unstable. You have an eviction notice with less than 48 hours remaining. You have insufficient funds to secure new housing. This puts your children at risk." "I'm working on it. I understand you work nights at a warehouse. Who watches the children while you're at work?" "They're asleep. I lock the doors. I check on them during breaks." Morrison made another note. "That's not adequate supervision for children ages 6 and 8. What am I supposed to do? I can't afford a babysitter. I can't afford anything." Isaiah's voice rose. "I'm doing the best I can." "I believe you, Mr. Carter. But the best you can isn't meeting minimum standards for child welfare. I'm going to have to recommend temporary removal until you can establish stable housing and adequate supervision." The words hit Isaiah like a physical blow. Temporary removal. They were going to take his kids. "No." His voice shook. "You can't do that." "I don't want to. But I have a responsibility to those children. I'm their father. I'm their responsibility. I take care of them. I feed them, I clothe them, I love them. Love isn't enough when there's no roof over their heads." Isaiah felt tears burning in his eyes. He refused to let them fall. "Not in front of this man. Please. Give me more time. I'll figure something out." Morrison sighed. "I can give you until the end of the week. Friday at 5 p.m. If you haven't secured housing by then, I'll have to move forward with removal proceedings." "I'm sorry." He left. Isaiah stood in the middle of his apartment and felt the walls closing in. Friday. 3 days. He had 3 days to find a miracle. He sat down at the kitchen table and put his head in his hands. For the first time since Sarah died, he let himself cry. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just silent tears that fell onto the table and spread into small pools. The door opened. He looked up. Maya and Caleb stood in the doorway, their backpacks still on. They'd come home early. They'd seen everything. Maya's face was pale. "Daddy." Isaiah wiped his eyes quickly. "Hey, baby girl. You're home early. Half day. Teacher training." She dropped her backpack and walked over to him. Caleb followed. They both stood in front of him, looking up at him with those big, scared eyes. "Are they going to take us away?" Maya asked. "No. I heard the man. He said temporary removal. That means foster care. That's what happened to Jasmine at school. They took her away from her mom." Isaiah reached out and pulled both kids into his arms. They held onto him tight. Caleb was crying. Maya was trying not to. "Listen to me," Isaiah said. His voice was rough. "I'm not going to let that happen. Okay? I promise you. I'm going to fix this. How? Maya's voice was small. I don't know yet, but I will. You trust me? She nodded against his chest. Caleb just held on tighter. There was a knock at the door. Isaiah was about to ignore it, but then Eleanor's voice came through. Isaiah? It's me. I heard everything. Please open the door. He gently pulled away from the kids and opened the door. Eleanor stood there with her cane, her face set with determination. I heard that CPS worker, she said. I know what's happening. And I'm going to help. Mrs. Price, you already? I'm paying your back rent. Today. Right now. I'm also paying 3 months forward. That will satisfy the eviction. That will give you stable housing. She looked at Maya and Caleb. Those children are not going into foster care. Not while I'm alive. I can't let you do that. You can and you will. Because if you don't, I'll call CPS myself and tell them you're refusing help that would keep your family together. Are you really going to let your pride cost you your children? Isaiah stared at her. She stared back, unflinching. Behind him, he felt Maya and Caleb holding their breath. Okay, he said finally. Okay. Eleanor nodded. Good. Now let me meet these beautiful children properly. She stepped into the apartment. Maya and Caleb moved closer to their father, uncertain. Eleanor smiled at them. Hello. My name is Eleanor. I live next door. Your father saved my life yesterday, and now I'm going to help save his. Is that acceptable to you? Maya looked up at Isaiah. He nodded. She turned back to Eleanor. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. You're very polite. Your father has raised you well. Eleanor looked at Caleb. And you must be the artist. Caleb's eyes widened. How did you know? Your father told me. He's very proud of you. Both of you. She adjusted her cane. I think we're going to be very good friends. Would you like that? Caleb nodded shyly. Maya was still watching Eleanor with careful eyes, evaluating, deciding if this old woman could be trusted. Where are your kids? Maya asked suddenly. Isaiah tensed. Maya. It's a fair question. Eleanor's smile faded slightly. I have 2 children. A son and a daughter. But we don't speak anymore. We had a disagreement, and they chose not to forgive me. That's sad, Caleb said. Yes, it is. But perhaps I can be a friend to you instead. Would that be all right? Caleb nodded immediately. Maya took longer, but eventually she nodded too. Eleanor looked at Isaiah. I'm going to make some calls. The property management company's office closes at 5. If I can reach the owner directly, we can have this handled by tonight. Keep your phone on. She left. Isaiah stood in his apartment with his children and felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Eleanor was true to her word. By 6 p.m., Isaiah's phone rang. It was the property management company. The eviction was cancelled. Back rent paid in full. 3 months forward paid. The woman on the phone sounded confused, like she didn't know why someone would do this, but the money had cleared and the account was current. Isaiah hung up and looked at the kids. They were at the kitchen table doing homework. Maya was helping Caleb with his reading. It's done, Isaiah said. We're not being evicted. Maya looked up. Her eyes filled with tears. Really? Really? She jumped up and hugged him. Caleb followed. They held on to him and he held on to them, and for a moment everything was okay. Later that night, after the kids were asleep, Isaiah knocked on Eleanor's door. She answered in her robe again. Thank you, he said. I don't know how to repay you. You already are. You check on me. You make sure I eat. You care if I live or die. That's payment enough. She paused. There's something else I need to tell you. What? That man from CPS. Morrison. I called him after he left. I told him I would be providing supplemental childcare. That I would watch the children on nights when you work. That satisfied his concerns about supervision. Isaiah stared at her. You said you'd watch my kids? I did. And I meant it. Bring them to me before you leave for work. They can sleep here. Or stay up if they prefer. I don't sleep much anyway. I'll make sure they're safe. Eleanor, you can barely walk. I can sit on a couch and make sure 2 children don't burn the building down. I'm not entirely useless yet. Her voice was firm. Let me do this, Isaiah. Let me be part of something. Let me matter to someone. He looked at her and saw the loneliness. The desperate need to be needed. He understood it because he'd felt it himself. Okay, he said. But they can be handful. Maya's bossy and Caleb has nightmares sometimes. I raised 2 children of my own. I think I can manage. She smiled. Besides, bossy children grow up to be strong adults. And nightmares pass. We'll be fine. That night, Isaiah went to work feeling lighter than he had in months. The eviction was gone. CPS was satisfied. His kids were safe. All because of one old woman who needed help and decided to help in return. He didn't know it yet, but everything was about to change again. The next few weeks fell into a rhythm. Isaiah would get the kids up and ready for school. He'd check on Eleanor, make sure she'd taken her insulin, make her breakfast. The kids would come home from school and do homework while he slept. He'd wake up in the late afternoon, make dinner, spend time with them. Then at 9:30 p.m., he'd take them next door to Eleanor's apartment. At first, the kids were shy, uncertain. But Eleanor had a way with them. She told them stories about her time as a judge. She taught Maya how to play chess. She let Caleb draw while she read. She was patient and kind and exactly what they needed. Isaiah would go to work, and for the first time, he didn't spend the whole shift worrying about his kids. He knew they were safe. He knew they were cared for. One night, he came home at 7 a.m. to find all 3 of them asleep in Eleanor's apartment. Maya and Caleb were curled up on either side of her on the couch. Eleanor's head was tilted back, her mouth slightly open, one hand resting on Maya's shoulder and the other on Caleb's back. Isaiah stood in the doorway and felt his throat tighten. It looked like a family. It looked like what he'd lost when Sarah died. It looked like home. He didn't wake them. He just closed the door quietly and went to his own apartment. He lay in bed and stared at the ceiling and thought about how strange life was. How you could lose everything and then find something you didn't know you needed in the most unexpected place. On a Thursday morning, 3 weeks after the eviction was canceled, Isaiah knocked on Eleanor's door to bring her breakfast. She didn't answer. He knocked again. Nothing. Fear shot through him. He tried the handle, but he used the spare key she'd given him and pushed the door open. Eleanor was on the floor again. This time she was conscious, but her breathing was labored, shallow and fast. Eleanor. He dropped to his knees beside her. What happened? Fell. Last night. Couldn't get up. Didn't want to call you. Her voice was weak. Didn't want to bother you. You're not a bother. Why didn't you call? He checked her pulse. Fess. Erratic. Her skin was cold and clammy. Phone's on the table. Couldn't reach it. Isaiah pulled out his phone and called 911. This time he didn't ask permission. This time he didn't wait. She needed help beyond what he could give. The ambulance arrived within 10 minutes. They loaded her onto a stretcher. She reached for Isaiah's hand. The kids, she whispered. Who's going to watch the kids? Don't worry about that. Just focus on getting better. Isaiah, please, don't let them take the children. I won't. I promise. They took her away. Isaiah stood in the hallway and felt that old fear creeping back. What if she didn't come back? What if she died? What would he do then? He called work and said he couldn't come in. They told him if he missed another shift, he'd be fired. He said okay and hung up. The kids were more important than the job. Eleanor was more important than the job. He picked up Maya and Caleb from school and told them Eleanor was in the hospital. Maya cried. Caleb asked if she was going to die like Mommy did. I don't know, buddy. I hope not. That night, he sat with his kids in Eleanor's apartment. It felt wrong being there without her. Empty. He looked at the photos on the walls. The life she'd lived. The family she'd lost. His phone rang. A known number. He answered. Mr. Carter? This is Dr. Patel from County General. Mrs. Price asked me to call you. She's stable. We're keeping her overnight for observation, but she should be able to go home tomorrow. Relief flooded through him. Thank God. Can I see her? Visiting hours are over, but you can come in the morning. She wanted me to tell you not to worry, and that she's sorry for scaring you. Tell her she has nothing to be sorry for. And tell her we'll be there in the morning. He hung up and looked at Maya and Caleb. She's okay. We can see her tomorrow. Maya wiped her eyes. I was scared. Me too, baby girl. Me too. They visited Eleanor the next morning. She was sitting up in the hospital bed, looking tired but alert. When she saw the kids, her whole face lit up. They're my favorite people, she said. Caleb ran to her bedside. Mrs. Eleanor. We were so worried. I'm fine, sweetheart. Just a little tumble. Nothing to worry about. Maya hung back, her arms crossed. You said you'd be careful. You promised. Eleanor's expression softened. You're right. I did promise. I'm sorry I broke that promise. You can't do that again. We need you. Maya's voice cracked. We don't have anybody else. Isaiah's heart broke. Maya was right. Eleanor had become family. And they were terrified of losing her the way they'd lost Sarah. Eleanor held out her hand. Maya walked over slowly and took it. I'll be more careful. I promise. And this time I'll keep it. They stayed for an hour. The kids told Eleanor about school. About a test Maya had aced. About a drawing Caleb had done of a dragon. Eleanor listened like it was the most important thing in the world. When visiting hours were over, they said goodbye. In the parking lot, Isaiah's phone rang. It was his supervisor at the warehouse. Isaiah, you missed your shift last night. You're fired. You can come pick up your final check on Monday. Just like that. No warning. No second chance. Just gone. Isaiah stood in the parking lot with his kids and his phone and felt the world tilt again. No job. No income. Eleanor was in the hospital. CPS would be back. Everything was falling apart again. He looked down at Maya and Caleb. They were looking up at him with worried faces. It's okay, he lied. Everything's going to be okay. But he didn't know if that was true anymore. 2 days later, 3 lawyers and 4 bodyguards walked into Isaiah's apartment. Eleanor had died peacefully that morning. The lead attorney opened a briefcase. Mr. Carter, Eleanor Price owned this entire building. She left it to you, along with a $2 million trust for your children's education. Her biological children contested, but her will was ironclad. Isaiah stared, speechless. She also left adoption papers. She wanted to legally become their grandmother. All she needed was your signature. Isaiah signed through tears. 6 months later, the building thrived. Isaiah managed it full-time. Maya and Caleb had their college funds secured. Eleanor's grave received fresh coffee every Sunday. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.